Thank you, sir. Baba, good morning. Good morning, church. How do we start, sir? I hope you slept well. I hope you slept well. No. Okay. The design for the night was rest. I was telling Pastor Toby, I said a little rest. Because if you say a little sleep, there's where we can journey with or journey to with that portion. I want to acknowledge all of God's servants in the house. Mama is not here, but we acknowledge her greatly, and I want to acknowledge my wife too. Yes. When God wants to sustain his man, he gives his man his woman. Yes, and I am blessed to be married to her. She's not just blessed to be married to me. I am blessed to be married to her. My strongest rein, you know what a rein is? That construct that is fitted into the bit of a horse to hold it back is my wife. It's my wife. She knows how to say, sit down there. And when she goes that way, everything shuts down. She believes that, I don't know, I didn't plan to say this about her. But I perceive that there are reconstructions around that for people in this building, where God's intention for spouses will become louder in the season. Yes, yes. Women like Zipporah. Was that Moses' wife? Yes, women like Zipporah, who will know how to craft a knife and cut so that the anger of God is abated. He's healing families. He is. Amen. Amen. Now, this room is very prophetic. So I am about to yield to the temptation to use another opening scripture. And I will yield. So you may please be seated. Revelation 1 from verse 8. The first few chapters of the book of Revelations give a very profound perspective to the speakings of God. It is possible for a man to become familiar with what God says and then become oblivious of two other dimensions of his speaking that I find equally important. And one of them is the God that says, good morning, Dad. You're welcome, sir. Thank you for yesterday night. So there is the burden of what God is saying, but equally important are the burdens of the God that is saying and how he is saying. So that in the day that utterances become many and visions multiply, in case you cannot fully discern if it was God that spoke, when you journey into the shape of the speaker, you will be able to discern if this is God or not. And in case you cannot go as far, because for me, discernment is higher when you know the speaker than when you hear what is said. Are you with me? It's possible to hang around God for long and then begin to speak like God. In that day, knowledge will be smaller than discernment. There is also how God speaks. And so if you look into the first 3 chapters thereabout of the book of Revelations, what you find out is a God that speaks to his church. So God speaks to individuals, God speaks to companies, but one of the things that define the speakings of God is that he speaks to his church. He has an amorous relationship, a love relationship with his church that makes him speak using a broad spectrum. I'm just tracking, so that's why I'm going slowly. I'll tell you when you can come up. And then if you look at Revelations 2 and 3, you'll find a few layers that give us a peep into how he speaks. So God introduces himself, because you see in the letters to the churches, I don't have all the time to do that because I really want to get into what I want to do, but I picked my tab and the Lord said, there is a way you must introduce me. So he introduces himself, and in introduction, he does not perfect that act by introducing himself. He also advertises his consciousness of those that he is speaking to. Are you with me? To the angel of the church in. So he views the church from a territorial perspective and he speaks to that location. All of his letters to the 7 churches are the same. I mean, if you break them into the categories of communication, are the same. What they heard was different, but he advertised his consciousness of who they were, and then he gave them a unique revelation of himself. Are you with me? Good. Then he goes to advertise that part of his enterprise within the churches is that he appraises them. So he comes to one of the churches and says, I know thy works. And it's not knowledge he's speaking about, it's discernment. And so I was speaking to a choral group one day, and I said to them, I know thy works. And I had to make them understand that what God is saying is not that he can judge you as a group, it's that he can also isolate every individual in that choral group to say, I know if it is this guy's prayers that power you. I know if you don't even rehearse your songs. I can isolate everybody's label. Are you with me? You need me to do something. Not here. The mic that God gave me, if I do it like this, I'll still be talking to it. So I feel that holding my hand high like this is so okay, I will try. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Ah, Jesus Christ. So how did you say yes, sir, if you cannot hear me? Okay. So you find introductions, you find appraisals, and that's as early as Genesis chapter 3, as Genesis chapter 18. The one in Genesis 18 was more vivid because God walks into a territory, he branches into the house of a man, and then he explains to that man that the errand of his visitation is not just to fulfill what he has said to that man. A report had actually come, and he was not willing to outsource finding out if that report was true. Are you with me? So the next time you come into a church gathering, not essentially a building, and then you hear statements like the presence of God is here, sometimes it's not there to bless. He came because a report ascended to him, and he does not want to outsource the assignment of finding out if that witness is true. Are you with me? In Genesis 18, it was the city that reported that the wickedness here is great. And God descending to peep into the situation meant that cities can become complicit with iniquity. Are you with me? I'm saying that cities can blow false whistles. You know the concept of a whistleblower. To say there's trouble here, 911, and there's no cause for 911. If it happens to cities, it also means that in the body there is a save our souls cry that can be false. Are you with me? It is possible to cry wolf And what fills the landscape is the sounds of wolf, but God comes to check if those are the matters. I'm going somewhere. I'm not going to land softly. I'm at home. You see, I don't call Baba pastor, I call him daddy. Are you with me? So when a son comes to the house, he's not careful. Are you with me? He's not careful. And I have a relationship with him that can make him call out of the blues to say, Apostle, can you hear? I'll hear. So I'm very comfortable with him. Meanwhile, Dad is waiting for your call. Because I told him that you're going to call him. So that's my biological father. So you see that. Okay. So he appraises. And when he appraises, he sits as the judge of both the living and the dead. He's not biased in his appraisal. The goodness of yesterday does not make him walk up to you to tell you today you are wrong. He's not afraid. I once heard a minister say that God is so emotionally connected to us that he knows that if he tells us that we are wrong, we'll be heartbroken. Yes. And so that he's too careful. He doesn't want to hurt your emotions. We must understand that he is. Don't lose the moment. We must understand that he is the one that bruises, but he also heals. And he has mastered how to do the two. Are you with me? So the one who can heal is not afraid to bruise. Then he comments as a feedback of his appraisal, but he also threatens. And he doesn't threaten with light matters. He threatens with weighty matters. Like the refrain of his presence, the refraining of revelation, the withholding of revelation, the removal of the candlestick. Then the house becomes a house of darkness. That's the God of the Bible. That's the Christ unto whom we came as unto a stone that is alive. That's the Christ. Then he promises rewards. It means that if you peep into the things of the Christ, they are common things, but they are unique things. So there are things that everybody has, and there are things that some people have because of what they became before him. Are you with me? The crowns of either of glory, of righteousness, are not for every man that is saved. Are you with me? There is a presence with the Lord that all saved men will have. But his coming is also to reward what we have done in the flesh. Are you with me? So he threatens, and when he threatens, he advertises a labor to him that overcometh. And there will have been no need to advertise overcoming if we were not going to come into a season of contentions. I will give. So there will be givings. I went that way to advertise to us that it is possible to sustain what I call selective communications with the Lord. And it's not because the Lord is not speaking in holistic fashion. It's that a man has designed to hear him only after a fashion. So that it is possible that your walk with God may be sufficient in the introductions of God, so you can compile a list of the names of Christ. Or that you thrive only by the positive sounding side of his appraisal, and it no longer has the capacity to restrain you or to chasten you. It's possible to arrive there. When Daddy began to speak yesterday, when he came after my session and he began to speak about a vision that the Lord gave him, one that produced that labor in prayers, that we should pray that the stops are removed. Maybe I rejoiced in my heart more than the average person, because I have fellowshiped with a God who, though excited, is frustrated. Is frustrated that I have something to do and I have been very vocal about what to do, but I have not seen fulfilled what I intend to do. And now he's saying through the lips of his prophet, and he had to go graphic to advertise that there was a movement that I started, a movement that was punctuated not because I wanted to punctuate it. And let me announce to you, not because the enemy was potent enough to punctuate it. If you will appropriate the stoppages of the moves of God to the enemy, it was because there was a partnership of sons and the enemy. Are you with me? Okay. So, when I rose from there, he gave me Revelations 1:8. This was how he began introducing himself before the unique introductions to the churches. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, saith the Lord, which is, and which was, and which is to come, the Almighty. I wish I had the privilege to go gradually. But communications from earlier, scripts advertise that the concept of the and was not original. That the original communication was, I am Alpha, Omega. I am not he who stands in the beginning and then goes to stand in the end. In me is beginning, ending. And the picture he gave me here this morning was the ring in my hand. I was telling Prophet that we want our marriage to go through a rebirth. That's why I stayed back in the battle. We're getting new wedding rings so that we'll be joined again. And then we can continue our journey again. A ring should have no beginning, no ending. It means that my intentions are covenant tied. Are you with me? That's what the wedding band suggests, that there's a covenant in place. Your experience on journeying with the move of God is that you come into the experience of how it started and how it ends, even if you are in the middle of it. Are you with me? I am he who is, because that's what you know now. But in interpreting who I am also he which was. So you cannot fully explain my current emphasis without knowing where I was standing and not knowing where I will end. And the gift that gives me consistency is that I am the Almighty. That's how he told me to introduce himself to us this morning. You cannot isolate your perceptions of God from what he was. Many times when we remember who he was and who he will be, we can now judge where he is. It also means to us, and dangerously, that if it was a God, let me go back to order, that was ordered in the beginning, in the day he stands to bring recompense, he will still be ordered. Are you with me? If he said go in the beginning, there may be obstacles in the middle that made you operate calm. But a day must come whereby the consciousness that if he said go in the beginning, what he will judge in the end is go. If you have started coming, you will need to align and begin to go. Are you with me? So let's look at the last 2 years on the strength of that. When I began to speak to the Lord, I said yesterday, the perspective that he gave me for the year wherein we are is that it's a year in which he will do new things. New things. And so I had to probe because there are a lot of new things, scriptures in the Bible. The Lord began to speak to me from Isaiah, and he advertised to me that he was speaking of new things in the shape of Isaiah's prophecy. Behold, I do a new thing, and now it shall spring forth. How does he give substance to new things? So he goes metaphoric. And then he says, I make roadways in the wilderness and springs or rivers in the desert. You will have felt that that communication was to the fathers. But now he was speaking to a generation of sons, advertising to them that the things I will do with you, your fathers will recognize. Because the concept of roadways in the wilderness was an ancient, now historic perspective that Israel sustained. Are you with me? So I will deal with you the way I dealt with your fathers. And in case your perspective of dealings is negative, that's not what I meant. I will be strong with you the way I was strong with your fathers. I will be effectual through you the way I was effectual with your fathers. It means the stories that you heard that left you in awe of the movements and the expressions of God will be relived in your days. When the fathers and the sons sit together, they will have been to the same places, experienced the same God. Are you with me? We call it recovery, but the Lord almost had to slap me out of that consciousness that what I'm doing is not recovery, because I didn't withdraw. I did not take away. Are you with me? So the subject of recovery advertises something that you possess that was probably lost. God told me, and he has licensed me to say that I am not bringing about recovery. It is that the things that are available can no longer be entered into, even though they are available. Elijah's mantle was not kept in the clouds. Elijah's mantle was God's gift designed to be used in the earth. So when Elijah was carried, the mantle fell to the earth. Am I saying something? I know you understand the concept of hanging mantles. I preached it when I was younger. You know, when you are younger, is anything that is said that you say? Am I breaking your hearts? Okay, you're afraid of where I will stop. No, now. It's a believer's meeting. There's no concept. Sorry. I need to. Even daddy knows why I need to stop. Good morning, sirs. Good morning, sirs. Charles, you mentioned their name so that in the recording it will be there. Okay, so please help me welcome the Reverend Austin Ukore and the Reverend Jonathan Oracle. Happy New Year. Sorry, where did I stop? They are very potent distractions. Yes. Yes. So I said the concept of hanging mantle. So you have felt that God hosted that thing in the clouds, and that the man Elisha needed to do some things to labor into it. It was left in the earth. And I believe, even though it's not something I will say, that before the end of this conference, God will bring us into the protocols of bending to pick what is on the earth, because it's not there. Are you with me? It's a proverb to a generation of sons that if you will receive, you will be humbled to receive. Let me just chip it in, because sometimes the vessel that plays host to your reception is not advertised in the natural in a shape that you can receive from. So you will need to bend. Are you with me? But it's not a language that God is speaking to our generation. There is a shape in which you must arrive for the next generation. Am I saying something to us? There are shapes that must not be replicated in the day of transfer. I'm saying that there was a way Elijah left, and left something for Elisha. There was a way Elisha also left the scene. If you study from scriptures, they didn't give inheritances the same way. The pronouncements in the day of their passage was the same. Are you with me? But their departure was not the same. Okay, you don't like what I'm saying. The Lord said to me, let me read, so that you'll be more comfortable. That the year 2024 and 2025 did not advertise an agenda in restoration. What God wanted to accomplish was an agenda that could be defined by two words. The first is the word reformation. And it has to do with a structural alignment. So you have, for example, it rained yesterday, and if you came here with a garment, one of our sons is here, and I saw that he was trying to get me to the car yesterday. I don't have problems with rain. I'm not salt. So, and even if I'm salt, when I drive back, science tells me that I would find myself again. I've been now ahead. So, but what I saw that he did as I entered the rain was that he took off his clothes and now used it as an umbrella. Are you with me? To cover my head. What he did was just create a structure to protect me from the rain. Are you with me? It held water a little, but sorry, rain still touched me. Even though I appreciate it, and I know God will bless it, but I'm just saying that even though there was good intentions advertised, the construct of the material could not hold rain. Are you with me? So in Reformation, what we labor essentially around is structure. And when structure is in place, we begin to take advantage of a supply that is already around. The problem is that a generation can go in pursuit of something that they think is missing. And the demands upon the Lord is to occasion a restoration. But the prayers will be endless because what you thought was missing was never lost, was not withdrawn. God's choice of his people has not been altered, and the supplies that back up that choice are still in the earth. But there is a structure. It could be ministerial structure, it could be family structure, it could be existential structure, it could be operational, that no longer advertises as being ordered in existence. Are you with me? The ark arrived at the house of a certain man called Obed-Edom because of the dread that the ark advertised. And God began to bless that house. So a king felt envious of him and said, let's move the ark. When the ark began to move, if there was history that ark had killed somebody, in the house of Abinadab now, that's where it stayed for many years. If there was history that it had moved, they would have paid attention to the priestly protocols of moving the ark, because the ark was not designed just for stagnancy or to be stationary. It was designed for movement, and design was factored into its construct. But what they did was that even though they had good intentions, they neglected the protocol of the journey of the ark. And what was supposed to be a blessing, what seemingly had been lifeless for many years, suddenly came alive. And God did not initiate his introductions to them in friendly fashion. He killed. And so the journey was aborted. It was a movement. But the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite was a stopping place. Was it God? No. It was man. And that's what God showed me that in the ring, when he showed me there. He showed me that the construct of that transgenerational flow of the essence of God is built around men who are interwoven. And so when he stops, what you should look at is man. Reformation. So structures. And that's why I emphasized yesterday that there is a summons for men that will become captains of the inheritance of God. And like Daddy came to tell us, you must know that it is not your inheritance. It means the wisdoms by which you govern, by which you command, must be from the one that owns it. Are you with me? Because one of the reasons why these moves die is that a man changes your to mine. The second thing that God showed me that he wanted to achieve in those 2 years was what he called reclamation. I don't know why it was rendered like that, but you find out that of those 7 letters, there was a last letter that was rendered differently. You know, in the introductions of the host churches as regards the speakings of God. So you find out it was to the letter to the church in Smyrna, to the church in Thyatira, and it was to the church in. But when it got to the Laodicean church, it was to the letter to the church of Laodicea. Somebody will say it's just semantics, but for me, I think it was significant. If you peeped into the communications of the Christ to that church, it was not a church that he could not lay claim on, because writing to them was proof of ownership. But I feel that there was an identity crisis in that church. That if you went to the market, the church was exactly like the market. Laodicea had redefined the church, so it was the church of Laodicea, and no longer the church in Laodicea. Hence the burden of reclamation. That my people will be known by my tokens. Not that they advertise contrary, but still retain in their consciousness that I own them. So he would reform and he would reclaim. And he said to me that if the agenda had been fulfilled over those 2 years, what he will have done, like I said yesterday night, is that he will have scaled it up by missionary manpower into the nations of the earth. So beyond the flames of revival that we want to bear into the nations, one of the badges of a true missionary this time is order. Is order. Is order. But the Lord said to me that for many reasons, that agenda was not fulfilled. And so he comes with an intention to reintroduce that agenda to the Church of Christ in Nigeria in 2026. It was exciting. But you see, when God stumbles because of men, it is not wisdom to hear his word after a season of stumbling, and then you receive it with gladness and journey with it. In the place of inquiry, one of the things that we must needs do is that we go to God. You can start playing now. And inquire of him, why did they stumble? Oh yeah, now. Are you afraid? No, I don't used to drive people away. Don't worry. Why did they stumble? Why did they stumble? A generation has risen in judgment to pass judgment on a past generation, because certain communications of God has arrived at them, making them feel that we are better than the last generation. But time has proven that that generation that stood in judgment has also occasioned the emergence of their next generation that is also standing in judgment, because where their grandfathers stumbled, their fathers have also stumbled. So it begins to look as though the ability to discern the errors of the past generation does not cure you from recreating their errors. And so when I go to meetings now, and somebody younger than myself comes and says, our fathers are. And then the fathers have been given a metaphor, and the metaphor is Eli. Where Eli rests, he will be restless. I know. I come on the scene and I say, God has concluded his discussions with Eli. Now he speaks to Samuel. Because Samuel, you don't have the wisdom for fatherhood too. Your priesthood will be stronger. Oh, you were not even put among priests or prophets in the day that the hall of fame of faith was crafted in Hebrews chapter 11. You were located among warriors because you fully explored the dimensions. You were that one of whom it was said. It was like he entered into a God dimension where no word that he spoke fell to the ground. Samuel, how did you find all of that potency and then lose and then die the same death that the one who raised you died? Questions, inquiry. Why did they fall? I said something to us yesterday, and it's sad, but I grew up believing God. A biological father is a doctor, but that's what he instilled. So if he wakes up and says, God says that he will give us money for this thing 2 days time, it's the end of prayer. It's the end of prayer. Like Daddy was saying to us yesterday night about, Baba Walioke asking you, God said. If my biological father comes and says God said, that's what he said. So we were raised to be very resolute on the strength of God spoke to me. One of the things he said to me is that there are voices that littered the space over the last 3 years. And many of them rose because of this two-pronged agenda that God had to reform and to reclaim. Just as many will rise this year, nameless, faceless, and the signs are before us. That in a few days, many erstwhile unknown have become cover pages. I was telling Prophet this morning that if you know the number of people that have sent me messages to bring Baba in Jos to their meetings this year, say, Tolu, can you help me get Apostle Gideon? Can you help me? Some people even backdated their conviction to October last year. That God has spoken to me since October to bring him. And I told my brother, but you are inside Wolfbeck. You heard the sermon. Say, can't this man get something? So let's bring him. But we are not that stupid. You listen to a minister once, and you want him to be in a conference in 2 weeks. But I'm saying that they are also the ones that have labored, but people did not know what they look like. And then you find out that there are many who have stories. Dangerous testimonies. The numbers are many. You know what I'm saying? It's because there's a shift. There's a shift. God will still work with some, but certain men have been dropped. And I asked him why. So let me read to you. I'll just read, and maybe we'll go to pray. My time is almost up. Where's Pastor Toby? Okay, it's not here. I was telling my brother I felt the need to also touch the issue of wells, because it's an emphasis that God is bringing for the year too. How that we must contend for certain wells. If not, something will happen to a generation. There are drinks that we were not designed to labor into by ourselves. Are you with me? But maybe I'll just stop here and pray. 5 things. There were many, but 5 that he told me. The first he revealed to me, he said, son, hearts were x-rayed. And what was found in certain men was unconfessed bitterness. Unconfessed bitterness. Ancient grudges that were not fully brought before the Lord. You know, one of Jesus' instructions on the subject of prayer was that if you come to prayer and any man had aught against you, not that you had aught against any man, So it was not that somebody offended you and you didn't forgive them. That finds coverage in the pattern of prayer that Jesus gave. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. That's covered. Everybody knows that one. But it is possible that you offended and somebody held you. Are you with me? Which will mean that if you come to prayer and God answers your prayer, it begins to look subtly as though God was in support of your offense. Are you with me? So it was not just about you, it was about the reputation of the divine. And so what God says is that you leave your requests at the altar and then you go back and make up with your brother. There are incidences of scattered ancient offenses, and sometimes it's between 20-year-olds. So when I mean ancient, it just means something that has passed. Things that we journeyed away from until we arrived at being chosen. And the Lord said, because of unconfessed bitterness, men could no longer separate between thus saith the Lord and thus saith my soul. Many began to fight battles that the Lord was not aware of and prosecuted burdens that the Spirit did not communicate. Hence, they became guilty of the error of Moses. What was the error of Moses? It was a man that had become overwhelmed with the burden of leading these people. And you need to give Moses a soft landing. If you pastor 10 individuals, you know the perils, the burdens of pastoring. You know the heartbreaks of pastoring. This man had wearied God and had wearied Moses. And so God gave Moses a simple instruction. He said, the people wanted water. He said, speak to the rock. Which was supposed to be an adumbration that we see even in the church's interactions with the Christ. The striking, then the speaking. Are you with me? The striking that brought life, and then the speeches that bring life. That's what Baba was teaching us yesterday night. Ask of me. The grounds of asking is a secondary ground. What makes asking potent is that there was a striking. Are you with me? A crucifixion that gives substance to prayer. Moses, because he was overwhelmed, was to tamper with an eternal pattern. Are you with me? So he began to address the people in a certain way, and I don't want to go into the details that touched God. God redeemed his image before the people. But when he was drawn aside, God advertised to him that he did not hallow me before them. If you father natural children or you have spiritual ones, the spiritual ones most times are more troublesome than the natural ones. You understand that there are times that they come with suppositions. I was sharing one with you this morning. They come with desires, and you are tempted to react in a particular way. What your reaction reveals is that in spite of compassion, in spite of the tools of fathering, you are a man. The error of Moses was that he brought God into that cheder. It was the children of God that placed a demand on him. But Moses advertised God within the scope of earthly fathering, that like we become exasperated and we vent our displeasure in the day that your requests are legitimate. God is also like that. So he redefined God to Israel. And I am saying to us that certain men have been judged for misrepresentation. And what God has done is to take away the scepter as a way to redeem them, not to delabor, but to not lose them as ministers. If you are in the house tonight, or you are listening online, or you will listen, let your journey in this year begin with very deliberate heart checks. About you I think you were the one that called me 28th, 29th or so, and I was sharing something. There was a matter that we were trying to judge, and there was an approach that I took that I felt I was betraying my position. And the Lord said to me, even a spiritual man is suspect. That's why I was not described like that. I was not called a spiritual man. I am called spirit. It says this year, find my heart, because it operates higher than your best of hearts. Find my heart. So I wrote and said, the spiritual man must touch the heart of Christ, because there are superior counsels, there's a superior wisdom that defines the state of that heart. And that's what actually judges situations. Let him read your heart, so that you are not misrepresenting in the day that he sends you to speak on his behalf. That's one. Two, is the desire to perpetuate relevance. This year we'll also advertise men who emerge more like crisis voices. Are you with me? A study of the book of Judges will advertise to us the concept of crisis leadership. You find out that the book did not pay a lot of credence to the making of the judges. And so person died, and when he died, Israel went apostate. I'm summarizing. And then they cried out to the Lord by the reason of the oppression of their captors, and then God sent them. How was Jephthah raised? Which school did Ehud go to? Who was his teacher? You find out that the scriptures were silent on many of those things because they were crisis leaders. Who mentored Samson? So if you want to sit in Samson's error, are you with me? And say that you can be that way and still be strong. Understand that Samson was not discussed outside the book of Judges. He was a crisis leader. Are you with me? I'll give a quick example. How much time do I have? Do I have 10 minutes? 9. Okay. If you finish your meal and you leave alone, you will likely take your plates to the kitchen. I mean, you can leave it anywhere, but when you need your spoon again, you soap wash it. And my emphasis is soap washing. But if food shows up, like I enter Reverend Austin's house, and or he walks into my house and he's taking ice cream, Baba, they chop this thing together. He said, a fine spoon now. It's possible that my spoon, the spoon in my sink, may not be soap washed. Tolu, if you don't show up early, I will chop this thing, finish. Oh, I know Baba can talk like that. God bless you, man. What we'll most likely do is to water wash the spoon. Are you with me? It's like you tone down on certain demands just to arrive the spoon at that crisis moment. Meanwhile, that does not take away the order of soap washing. So the agenda of God, when it comes with urgency, one of the things that it produces is crisis voices. But it is wisdom to understand that you were brought as a crisis voice. Your sounds do not advertise that you fulfilled all of the demands of God. So you are not better than them. You were just sent to run an errand that they were not sent to run. Your sound is supposed to proceed like a double-edged sword that cuts them and cuts you. Are you with me? But it is possible that a crisis voice stops knowing himself, and then he begins to orchestrate his perpetuation in relevance. And when you try to do to yourself what God does not intend to do to you, what you do is that you labor in creating structures that are not divine. It weakens your witness. The sins that have been announced and those that are announcing the sins are both guilty of misrepresentation. Because there's a mingling of flesh. And when I say flesh, maybe I should make it a little bit, bring it more home. There's a mingling of self. That's the real word, with the divine. And so the wrath of man has been proven not to orchestrate righteousness of God. And so God has become a seeker again, finding other voices. I'll close with one last thing. There are many of them. The last is greed. The last is greed. I found out that the Holy Ghost can deal not only with what is obvious, but what is covered. Remember 1 Corinthians 2, the Bible said the Spirit searcheth all things. And in the realm of quests, Paul advertises to us that the deepest matters are called the deep things of God. He will have fully extrayed you before we get into the deep things of God. Are you with me? It is possible for the Holy Ghost to judge a sin that is not yet manifesting. And if you understand how to trust, not just yield, because there are two different things. A man can trust the speakings of the Holy Ghost because what he says to you resonates with your consciousness. So he comes to you and says you are proud. And you say, yes, yes, I agree with you. I agree. Me too, I've been seeing it. But it can also come to you and say you are proud, when from the lips of men you are the epitome of humility. So there's yielding, there's trusting. The concept of trusting is if it proceeds from your mouth, then that is my appraisal. That's what gives him the privilege to cut deep into you and deal with matters. Or because with the rising of crisis voices, there will be the sudden notification that there's a flow of wealth that notoriety brings to men. And it is possible that boundaries are lost, consecrations are jettisoned, just to lay hold on the gold, and then the contact on the God is lost. I have about 17 things that he said to me, but these are 3. And these 3 were among the 17 answers he gave to me as to why my agenda was stymied over the last 2 years. But he says, I come again. I will bring the same burden. So this year, the indictments of God will come advertising the same substance with which it advertised in the last 2 years. But if the voices that are raised in this season align with God, the body will not only hear them differently, but will react to them differently. We will arrive 1 year, and it will be 1 year, and God fulfilling an agenda that started a long time but got to a zenith over the last 2 years. The question is that if there is someone in this building that God has chosen to steward that agenda, can you be trusted? Can you be trusted? Can you be trusted? Have you arrived at a place where your heart has been placed before him? You don't know your heart. You don't know your heart. You don't know your heart. I want to say it again. You don't know your heart. Your days of knowing the heart will be incident upon the days that you subjected the heart to the sights of the seeker. He will come with his light and show you things that you thought you had overcome. Search my thoughts, my heart, know my thoughts. See if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me unto thy way everlasting. You want to speak to the Lord. You want to speak to the Lord. The best days of the church are not behind us, they are before us. And what God does in this season is a good work. It's a good work. It's a good work. He begins by a purging, and then he tilts us into the expressions of his glory. All of the colors of the divine spectra will be seen by the church. We have journeyed to the end. It was better. It was better. For every man giveth, serveth the cheaper wine, the lesser wine at the beginning, or the better wine at the beginning. And then when men are drunk, they now serve the cheaper one. But you have saved the best for the last. I bring you a word from God. There is an emergence of a church that we leave the church ancient. We leave them jealous. But there is a work. 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 But God will journey from the lips of a new kind of man. Masisa papanda. Lefatino mofatato senai apopaka lekua tefimata mapokefe feti. We have just 2 minutes to pray. In case you have sensed a shift in the speakings of God to you, and your heart has now become the habitations of his burdens, you want to say to the Lord, reform my heart. Reform my heart. Haramilo fasiata. Pamesi faletomoma. Karu parato kalata. Panfeko matesi sata. Inofika brasite biatonai. What will be constant is the counsel and the purpose of God. If men do not adjust to the demands, men will be substituted. For he will achieve. He will take out the stops he said to us last night. And I came to announce that it also means God will remove men and will plant other men. But in the day that you are planted, remember that men were set aside. No, it did not begin with you. It will not end. Even if we do not yield, we will just end. The agenda will continue. So we ask for mercy. We ask for mercy. That as you journey from man to man, reforming, reclaiming, onto the scaling up, you will find my heart.